Well, hello everyone. My name is Igor Keel. I lead the channel sales, and I'd like to welcome you to the 3DI webinar on the 7 stages of selling VSaaS, a guide to scaling your business with 3DI. These will be the 7 stages we're going to be looking at. Number 1, prospecting for leads, engaging to gather information, qualifying opportunities, demonstrating the platform, overcoming objections, closing the sale, and generating referrals. And we're going to get in depth with each one of these stages. So first and foremost, if you have an existing client base, it would be worthwhile to approach them first for the cloud surveillance services. Perhaps you can upsell them if they have existing systems, but otherwise it's going to be necessary to seek out new potential customers, which you can acquire via channels such as marketing, organizing events or webinars, speaking at local chambers of commerce, attending various industry events, and just generally networking. Ideally, you'd like to establish yourself as a leader in the commercial cloud surveillance services space. You can gain credibility and become an expert go-to for cloud surveillance services. Now, in order to separate yourself from the competition, it's recommended to get creative by creating a unique cloud service offering using the flexible cloud storage options and add-ons. Now, this can come in the form of, for example, setting up a monitoring business, leveraging the included alarm station, hiring a couple guards, and in essence, doubling your margins by also providing not only the remote viewing for your customers, but also the monitoring component. IoT is a big part of 3DI. So we have webhook technology available for you to integrate things such as thermostats, sensors, lighting, doors to create a complete smart home solution. Another way our clients get creative is they can white label the hardware directly from the factory and bundle it in a seamless commercial solution with the software, i.e. the 3DI white label. Another way could be to target niche verticals that may use the analytics, right? So perhaps going after construction sites that may benefit from the hard hat detection that we have available. There's no upfront cost in this case, and it can be enabled same day. Things like people counting, heat maps can be valuable for retail, for merchandise sales, stuff like that. Now, taken from our solutions page, which I recommend you check out at 3di.me/solutions. There's interesting case studies you can read and full-length descriptions of the verticals outlined on this slide. As you can see, the common theme is multi-site, right? So end users that would benefit from combining all their viewing that's typically spread across, the region, and combining the different systems under one umbrella. Often centralizing the monitoring is valuable for them, as well as having the flexibility to layer valuable cloud add-ons, such as the cloud analytics, facial rec, long-term time lapses, sharing and embedding widgets, hard hat PPE detection, etc. So these are some ideas of verticals our channel partners have had success in. VSaaS is most applicable to multi-site scenarios. That's where kind of on-prem can fall short, and you can pick up some good business. Now, let's talk about engaging for insight. So when you connect with a prospective client, it's important to focus on their challenges rather than a general solution, meaning find out what their exact pain points are and make sure to tailor the pitch specifically to that. Remember that you're offering much more than just a cloud storage component. You're tailoring a solution to meet their exact needs. So besides the initial contact, it's important to plan out a sequence of your outbound touch points with value-added follow-up. So besides your initial, outreach, which may come in the form of a call or an email, your call to action could be, for example, to share demo credentials, right? You can tell them, hey, here's a risk-free trial. You don't need to sign up. You don't need to pay anything. Simply just, navigate to this web-based VMS, log in with the demo credentials, and evaluate the solution to see how quick, intuitive, and useful it can be for your business. But also plan out a series of touch points after. Your second follow-up could be touching base with them a few days after, finding out what their experience has been like evaluating the VMS, whether they have a timeline to deploy this sort of technology that can inform you of the priority of this sort of project. Subsequent follow-ups can be a list of benefits that a solution like this can offer them and others can't. Here's some other examples laid out on the slide. You can talk about the value of combining the viewing across multiple locations, leveraging their existing hardware, so they don't need to replace hardware or go out and buy additional hardware. They're not going to get locked into anything. Plug and play is a big point of topic. You can emphasize the value that we're going to bring in terms of cybersecurity, especially if you're talking to an enterprise. They would value the fact that you're not poking holes in their firewall. You're doing this without port forwarding. So you can brainstorm some of the talking points and value-added follow-up in that regard. The add-ons are another great follow-up point of emphasis. So coming back and explaining how not only are they going to get the storage component in the cloud, but now that their footage is in the cloud, they can leverage all these valuable assets in addition to their cloud storage, right? So with a click of a button, they can enable video analytics to specific cameras. Perhaps there's cameras at choke points that may benefit from facial recognition. Perhaps some cameras need to be shared and embedded on web pages, or others are watching a construction site. So add-ons is another great point of emphasis that you can follow up on. Always try to gather information and push to schedule a meeting. After sharing demo credentials or give them some sort of trial, they're likely going to come back and want to know what the pricing is. But in order to avoid getting commoditized and them putting you in a box where you're selling cloud for $20 a month and the guy down the street's selling it for $18, in order to avoid that, you want to push to sit down with them, in person, online, and make sure they understand the full scope of the value they're going to get, a complete platform, right? Not just one puzzle piece, but the entirety of it, and that they have the flexibility to grow into it. They're afforded the scalability to deploy cloud across numerous locations. And make sure to tailor the pitch based on who you're speaking with at the company, right? Typically, there's a decision maker with an economic or a technical profile. Speaking to someone who's in operations, well, they're going to be more concerned with how easy this is to give to their subordinates. They're going to be interested in the turnaround time, and you're going to tell them, hey, I can get you up and running the same day. No need to change your architecture. We're going to make this a seamless transition, and you're going to be able to give viewing privileges to your authorized users and see everything in the back end, manage logs. If you're talking to someone who's more economically centric, such as like a VP or a CEO, some of the points that you can focus on with them is the fact that there's no upfront investments. They don't have to switch out their hardware, make additional investments, like additional CapEx investments. The setup is going to be simple and convenient, and you're going to be able to handle their challenges and perhaps save them money down the road. Now, qualifying compatibility. Your first qualifier should be finding out, are they bought into the concept of cloud technology? Explain to them that the trend is everything is moving to the cloud. And if they're looking to utilize the latest and greatest advancements, that's likely going to come from the cloud. So if you're speaking to someone who's a little bit more old school, it's important to overcome any misconceptions they may have about cloud technology being inferior to on-prem. But if you're speaking to someone who's a little bit more like a millennial, then they should be a little bit more comfortable with the idea of cloud, and it should be an easier sell. Make sure to gather as much information you can about their challenges and problems and relate it back to them and how this is going to benefit them. Now, there's 4 general, profiles of customers that we're going to outline on the slide that would greatly benefit from the adoption of VSaaS. So first and foremost, you may be speaking to an end user that may have no surveillance system yet, right? And there, what we want to focus on is the advantages of low upfront investment, right? There's no need to invest into expensive recorders, hard drives. You can pair the most appropriate cameras for their use case, and make sure they can scale affordably and only pay for the service that they need in the cloud. So they can get up and running with a cloud-based VMS with a lot of the shortfalls, avoiding a lot of the shortfalls of on-prem out of the get-go. Number two, you may be speaking to someone who already has a basic on-premise system, such as a package of an NVR or DVR and a set of cameras. An easy way to kind of help them grow into and adopt cloud may be to propose deploying a hybrid scenario. So you can tell them, hey, I'm not here to change a lot of things, but this may be working for you, though obviously you seem like you've graduated out of this on-prem system, and over top of it, we can layer the cloud component. You can leverage the best of both worlds, get hybrid recording. We're going to continue recording on-prem. You're going to still have your high-def footage on site, but let's also simultaneously send your substreams to the cloud so you can get improved viewing and administration. I know you have more than one location, and you need to have those accessible from a single system. So let's unify your multi-site and your various systems, and let's enhance the security. So NVRs, a major shortfall is their poor remote viewing security. It's typically a headache to view cameras off-site on computers, on mobile phones. Typically in this sort of profile, they are often a business owner who's always on the go, and they just need to have their surveillance in their pocket, on their phone. So, a major selling point could be the generic NVR app they're using isn't meeting a lot of their needs. It's not giving them the alerts they need. It's not filtering for alerts for specific objects. It's not letting them multi-view. It's clunky. It has limits, where you can't view after a certain number of cameras. And thus the 3DI app is going to overcome a lot of those challenges and make it easy for them to view their administration and their viewing on the phone. The third profile, again, taking a step above that, would be someone who feels like they're kind of pushing the boundaries of an advanced on-premise system. So think a little bit more advanced servers, and at this point, they know they need advanced VMS functionality, so they've graduated to paying for VMS licenses. So typically in this case, they're a larger enterprise, and some of their primary needs are going to come from deploying the viewing to several users, perhaps simultaneously. Similarly, they also would benefit from the improved unified viewing and administration, but now it's also on any device, right? Macintosh, PC, iPhone, Android. They need to give access to managers, lower level employees, distribute access to specific users, limit functionality. They're looking for even more advanced functionality that they're not getting with their VMS, and oftentimes is not even possible on on-prem VMSs. Another hook for them for this type of profile could be helping get them away from renewing their expensive VMS licenses. They can be digging a hole for them if they're maintaining their on-prem hardware. It's aging. It requires just revitalization, and on top of that, they're paying expensive annual licensing. You can help get them away from all of that by switching them to VSaaS. Typically, in this case, they also have hardware going down quite often across multiple locations, and they're only finding out about it after the fact. Whereas VSaaS, we have a pulse on all the hardware, and you or they can be notified in real time if there's any downtime or outages, and quickly troubleshoot and get those systems working again. And the last profile Number 4, you're speaking to someone who's already utilizing a competing VSaaS, right? So it's obvious they're bought into the idea of cloud, but there's no other VSaaS that's going to be as flexible in terms of streaming settings and hardware compatibility, or as scalable in terms of being CapEx free and providing the same level of comprehensive front and back end features. Obviously, not to mention the add-ons and analytics they can enable that are super affordable compared to what else is in the market. And as well as they're not going to be tied down to getting locked into proprietary hardware, multi-year commitments and contracts. You're going to be able to unify the multi-brand surveillance. So there could be, you can dig to find out more. Sometimes if they're looking to expand to a new location, and if they go with their existing VSaaS vendor, I heard stories where they know they need a fisheye in a certain situation, and that vendor, with their limited catalog, simply does not carry a fisheye, and tells them to instead adopt 4 dome cameras, each pointing in different directions, and on top of that, buy 4 expensive licenses. So oftentimes, the catalogs of these other VSaaS vendors are extremely limiting, and they need to be on a platform that is friendly to third parties, and it's going to empower them to utilize the most appropriate cameras for their various situations. Now that we're getting into the demo, qualified them, we've gained insight. Now it's about demonstrating the platform and how it relates to them. I recommend starting by explaining the big picture of what we're looking at, right? To gather context of what we're about to dive into. So the pillars of 3DI are to resolve hardware dependency, alleviate the complicated networking headaches with a plug and play, and eliminate false alarms using cloud analytics. So those are some avenues you can kind of start with, but make sure to lead with their pain points. So if you've gathered that they are always on the go and they need a superior remote viewing experience on their mobile devices, make sure to start by showing the mobile app that 3DI offers them. Or if it's about, if they tell you a story where, they had a location get burglarized and a recorder was destroyed or stolen, and they like to avoid that from happening in the future by getting a cloud backup, focus on showing them how, there's going to be hybrid recording, flexible options, and they can get that cloud backup in parallel to their on-prem. Make sure you use available tools, such as any marketing materials you can come in with, such as brochures, pamphlets, to summarize the solution very easily for them. Make sure to show them a demo account. So all our clients have a dedicated demo account. It's branded for them. You can use that to sign in and show them around. You can give access to them so that they can evaluate it. But some of my tips in terms of showcasing the platform, by default, starting with the video portal, I would emphasize when you log into it, how intuitive the user interface is, the fact that it's web-based and accessible on any operating system, any device. This isn't like a thick client that's going to be very restrictive. This is a very flexible solution. It can scale to the size of the monitor. You can have multiple tabs open. You can customize the layouts to display any number of cameras. And then I would focus our attention to the bottom timeline to start the presentation. So with the timeline, you want to emphasize the value of the thumbnails. This is oftentimes unique to 3DI. They can scrub through the timeline visually by noting the thumbnails. As you can see, there's markers on the timeline. The different colors will indicate various events, and that can also significantly speed up their investigation when they do access to VMS. It's easy to rewind to any previous time and date. You can enable full screen mode, toggle various aspect ratios, go back in time and synchronize the view and time of all cameras. Next up, I'll begin by going through each of the 6 menu tabs in the top left-hand corner. First one being the camera tab, right? So here you want to note the unified nature of the solution, right? versus right now where they may have different systems in different locations. Here you can emphasize the fact that we're looking at a Dahua camera, we're looking at a Hikvision camera, we're looking at an analog camera, and we have congruency here, where it's one system with various hardware all under one umbrella. If the user is given permission, they can share access to unregistered users to specific cameras with or without a password and automatic expiry. They can also do that in the app. So that's oftentimes valuable for clients. If they're utilizing cameras which have pan-tilt zoom control, you can note the fact that that's going to be available for them in both the web UI as well as the mobile app. And if the camera also has two-way audio, they can do talk down as well as hear everything that's going on at no additional cost. And the last tab is the offline. So it can emphasize the fact that we are including real-time health status monitoring of all your hardware, right? We're keeping a pulse, and we're going to be in the know if something goes down due to a power outage or internet loss, and we're going to be proactive about that, right? Next up, the navigation tab. So as you customize the grid layout to any number of tiles, you can then save those layouts and further categorize them within folders. This can be valuable when they have surveillance spread across a region and they'd like to see certain locations, a city, a country, that is super valuable for them. And these layouts are synchronized with the user. So when the user logs in on the mobile app, they can have access to the same layouts to quickly retrieve, playback, and multi-view. The event tab is going to introduce the topic of analytics, right? So you can explain that besides the free edge analytics, the 3DI is going to unify all in one place for them to continue leveraging their motion detection, line crossing, intrusion, tamper detection. In case they feel like they've outgrown those edge analytics and they require a little bit more sophistication, you're going to have options available for them to layer intelligent AI video analytics in order to receive object detection, set up rule-based event recognition based on objects. You can layer facial recognition to any IP camera. Cameras can be enabled to do area search. You can search through previous objects, color search, heat maps, and people counting. So that's something that they can grow into. And we believe the future will be won by making the systems a lot more efficient and letting your system extract as much intelligence as possible and quicken your investigation as much as possible. Next up, the library tab. So emphasize how clipping is a big part of this. The end user can clip up to 1 hour of real-time footage or up to 48 hours of a time lapse to be compressed to play back in as little as 30 seconds or 5 minutes. Everything is cloud hosted in the raw MP4 file format. It isn't going to require a specialized player to play it back. There won't be any watermarks. There won't be any tampering of the clips. These clips are stored in the cloud for free and indefinitely. As long as the camera maintains a subscription for many years, those clips are going to live there. So this is really important for clients that have previously had break-ins, they've lost footage. This is one of their pain points. Here, all their footage can be stored, all their clips can be stored indefinitely, right? The map tab, this is a great way to visualize your surveillance spread across multiple locations. And there's a tool to isolate a predefined region. So you can circle around a town and those cameras will get populated on the screen automatically. Auto scan, if you're speaking with someone who's accustomed to having a video wall, well, now they can have a more efficient video wall where it can automatically cycle between various layouts and cameras automatically after any number of time, like after 10 seconds, after 30 seconds, after a minute, it can just keep cycling between their various locations. And this way is more efficient because unlike having a big screen with tiny little tiles, Now they can be afforded, bigger tiles to see what's actually going on, and that'll cycle over time automatically. The thumbnail grid is a great free feature. Another way for your clients to, easily and quickly rewind to find specific events. This will show them the thumbnails of a couple hour intervals of the past day. And if they keep clicking further in, they'll see thumbnails with smaller and smaller time intervals. So if they're trying to figure out when a certain vehicle perhaps arrived on site, they can just keep clicking through the thumbnails and in a few clicks, be able to play back the exact event when that occurred. From there, they can clip it, share it, download it, etc. Next up, the heat map. So useful in cases of retail more so. Though we've our clients have found value in monitoring applications to assess maybe when assess the activity of patrol, but often valuable for merchandisers that want to assess the demand for certain regions, aisles, products. Again, a great feature to be deployed on any IP camera with a quick flip of a switch via the cloud, right? And the mobile apps, emphasize, so it's available on both iOS and Android. You can see a preview of it on the screen right now. They can view all the same cameras that their user account has been associated and authorized to have access to. They can multi-view, have access to the same library of clips and time lapses, share those clips and time lapses and cameras, view all their synchronized layouts, receive push notifications of any events, as well as access the object search if they're seeking previous events, right? The alarm station, if relevant to their use case, perhaps they want to stay on top of what's currently going on site. Maybe they're using a video wall up until now, but it's not very efficient if they have all these cameras up and only certain cameras are seeing activity. Our alarm station is a modified version of the VMS where it's a black screen. You can customize it to any number of tiles, and it'll be filled up with events in real time. So they can stay on top of what's currently going on. If they want to use it for serious monitoring purposes, there's an opportunity to categorize events, leave notes, and again, integrate with webhooks to perhaps trigger certain things after acknowledging events, etc. So that may be relevant for them, maybe not. Use your best judgment. And the administration portal. So 3DI is a great turnkey platform. And in addition to you having all the administration at your fingertips, you're afforded to extend a similar layer of administration to your end user. If you're maybe speaking to someone who's in that second profile where they have an NVR, a couple of cameras, well, the likely case is you'll be in charge of their administration, and 3DI is going to make it super easy, minimize your costs. So when they call you and they say that a certain module is too sensitive, you can quickly just log into the back end, make those adjustments, save it, and you can avoid having to go on site to change settings. But if you're speaking to someone who's a little bit more enterprise, they may have a team responsible for their video security, then you can equip them with all the necessary tools so that they can manage their administration, and you simply just bill them every month or every quarter or every year, however often you want. So you're afforded the flexibility to extend that functionality to your user. You can toggle whether you'd like to restrict the privacy. Maybe they're very privacy centric and they don't want you to view their streams. You can set that up. Perhaps they're a little bit more liberal and they don't mind if you check in and help with tech support. You can do that too. So you can deploy various levels of control to your client as well as yourself, so that everyone is happy, everything is audited, there's no back doors, it's very secure, there's 2FA, multi-factor authentication, logs, rules, alerts, co-branding, everything. Now, you might get some objections. So you gotta figure out what is preventing them from adopting or migrating to the 3DI VSaaS. Make sure to address their concerns honestly, enthusiastically. Additionally, keep track of common objections you receive so that you can incorporate those answers into future presentations. It can often be the pricing, right? If they're trying to beat you up on pricing, likely they're missing the full picture and the complete value proposition. So it's important to kind of circle back and re-emphasize exactly everything they're going to get with this complete turnkey cloud-based platform, right? But if it's more technical and they really can't, whatever you're quoting them is honestly out of their budget, luckily you have the flexibility to create additional streaming plans. 3DI is unique in that we don't have any minimum or maximum streaming requirements. You can get them the same 1080p that they're looking for, but if you can throttle the bitrate a little bit and they don't mind, well, you can get them in a lower price range. So you're afforded the flexibility to scale up and down and match their needs and their budget. Number two, maybe they're concerned with loss of footage. They're worried about perhaps having an internet loss, right? In the rare case of internet outages, recommend the opt for hybrid recording, right? So pair those cameras, that PoE switch with a recorder so that you get both on-prem recording, perhaps at a high def, and then in parallel, you have, you're afforded all those, great remote administration and remote viewing tools via 3DI. Or if maybe that's a little bit too much of an investment and maybe the outages are, very rare and not the biggest priority, you can simply equip the cameras with SD cards. So that's always recording on the SD card. So if you're, perhaps missing 10, 20 an hour worth of footage, that can be retrieved via the SD cards. Reminder, 3DI is a pure cloud solution. So if there is internet disruption, there would be a gap in your playback. But from my experience, it's a super, super rare case. And it's usually no more than 1, 2, or 5 minutes. Limited bandwidth. So this is fairly common. You need to do a speed test to kind of find out what their upload pipeline looks like, and thus how many channels at what concurrent bit rate can you fit within those parameters. But if they really do have limited bandwidth, perhaps they're trying to get 30 cameras at a site where their upload is like 20 megabits per second, and they really want high def, but it would be difficult to do that safely. Well, in that case, the go-to would be recommend that they upgrade their internet plan. Oftentimes with security products, they're already getting a dedicated line for their point of sale, their access control, so they shouldn't skimp out on their video security. Perhaps have a dedicated LAN, perhaps pay slightly more for your upload speed. But otherwise, if they're stuck in their ways and they just want you to work within whatever they have, you can. You can simply just throttle the bit rate, put limits as to how much a channel can upload in order to stay within the limits of their internet speed, right? Now, what if they grill you on the long-term costs of cloud possibly exceeding on-prem? This is a bit of a misconception, and it isn't an apples-to-apples comparison. Where you're getting in the cloud, you really can't get on-prem. Not only the fact that there's no automatic free updates, you don't have that great remote viewing and administration tools available, and oftentimes, if you alleviate a lot of the middlemen hardware, such as your recorders, not only do you save on the cost, but also on the maintenance down the road. And cloud can end up being even actually more cost effective than on-prem. So security, if they're concerned with cybersecurity, often enterprise clients would be, make sure to emphasize the value of the plug-and-play module. So unlike other vendors, we take cybersecurity extremely seriously. And one of our competitive advantages is this plug-and-play module, compatible with 8 of the leading manufacturers, and the option to literally plug-and-play anything via the 3DI gateway. Besides encrypting the feed and making it very secure, the fact that we utilize the AWS cloud means that we guarantee a high degree of security and uptime, as well as just the performance factor. So we are SOC 2 certified, and have a great rating for that. And fun fact, cloud storage, a little known fact, is actually more reliable than hard drives. It has more nines of reliability, like 99.99999. So now, closing the sale. So make sure to walk away instilling a peace of mind that their technical and sales support inquiries will be taken care of. That's often a major point of emphasis. Make them feel comfortable that if something needs to be changed, if they have new employees, if they need onboarding, you're no more than just a call away, right? Make sure to underline the flexibility and consumption-based approach, right? This is something that they can grow into, perhaps start small and upgrade as their business grows, as their needs evolve, or vice versa. Perhaps business isn't going too well and they need to shrink. It's possible to just make a few changes and reduce the costs and add-ons and stuff like that. If they are evaluating multiple systems, then it's a good idea to present them with a checklist so that they can assess what they're getting with this versus a competing product. And oftentimes that'll help them realize that they're getting a lot more value with what's in front of them. But if they're still skeptical of committing their entire business, you can consider offering them a trial. If you're signed up with us and you're still under that $100 threshold, it's a good opportunity to set your clients up with trials because you're going to be paying the minimum maintenance anyways. Or you can consider dividing their project into multiple phases, right? So you can tell them, hey, for this month, let's get a couple cameras up. Let's get you, evaluating the solution with your own cameras. And then if it goes well, next month we'll add, more. When they ask you about turnaround time, you have the benefit of having instant turnaround. Cameras can be connected the same day. There's no need to go out and buy additional hardware. We can get their existing systems online without any problems. And if you can get them to buy at least the minimum, for example, they're having a tough time seeing the full picture of, committing to 60 days of continuous recording. If you can at least get them on, 4,000 events per month or just a live stream, get them on one of the entry-level plans, then you oftentimes they come around. They try the platform, they get accustomed to it, and then they call back and they want, a higher degree of functionality or quality. So at least getting them on the basics will be an opportunity to sell them down the road on higher subscription, more costly subscription plans, as well as cloud add-ons. And if you need to create urgency, a good idea may be to offer special pricing that expires up until a certain point. And again, underlying the general trend that we've seen over the past few years, especially with COVID, as maybe more people are working from home, but they still need eyes on their assets. So everything's moving to the cloud, and their surveillance should not be a stranger to that, right? Now, referrals. The most valuable leads are going to be generated via referrals. Make sure to remind your client of the challenges that you've been able to overcome for them using this cloud platform. And that will help you generate client success stories that you can use as case studies to win new business in the future. So I want to thank you for your attention. I like to emphasize that 3DI takes channel partnerships very seriously. And besides offering a high degree of technical support, we also fulfill your sales needs. So if you haven't already gotten our editable marketing materials, reach out to us, download them. You can pull out assets. You can make your own marketing materials with it. We have product FAQs on our help center. And if you have any questions, please get in touch with me. Let me work with your sales team. Let's brainstorm ideas. Let's brainstorm a strategy, some verticals we can attack. And at the end of the day, we aren't successful unless you are. So we do everything in our power to ensure that our channel partners are equipped and successful with their VSaaS businesses. We look forward to working with you and cultivating our relationship in 2022. Thank you, everyone. Bye.